Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Sophomore Parent Night. We're happy to have you here. We're just going to wait a few minutes to have everyone filter in. We're climbing up there. Happy Tuesday night. Welcome on in. 10th grade Parent Night, class of 2024. All right, I'll get started in just a minute. Just have a few more people coming in, it looks like, and then we'll get started to kick it off here. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Deanna Mistel Ali. I am one of the school counselors here at Los Altos High, and I am joined tonight by some of my wonderful colleagues that I'd like to introduce. I'll start from the top. We have Assistant Principal Fabian Morales Medina. We have Counseling Coordinator Ryan Carter. We have our College and Career Center Coordinator Laura Duran. And we have school counselor Janice Parker. So welcome on in. I know some people joined as I was talking. I was introducing my colleagues. Again, I'm Janice Mistel Ali, and we are going to be recording this presentation. It's being recorded now. So we will have the slides posted up on our Los Altos Counseling website in the coming days. So no need to take extensive notes or anything like that. You'll be able to reference the video at a later time. And we will have the Q&A option for families to be able to ask questions. We will do our best to answer those questions as we go through the night, and we may have some time to finish answering at the end. So I will go ahead and get started without further ado. Welcome on in, everyone. We're happy to have you here. So this is our counseling team. And if you joined us last year for back to school night presentation, and if you were, if you've seen our picture around, I guess, we're not new faces, but just as a reminder, this is our counseling team, the 7 counselors, as well as our counseling secretary. So we do a lot with our students. And so not only do we plan their academic coursework throughout their high school, we also help them plan for post-secondary options. It's really important that we talk to them about balance. So that academic achievement, but also really strengthening and encouraging strong social emotional skills, and really fostering kind of a whole learning, whole child approach. And so we're more than just, the people that your students go to for help picking classes. We really are hoping to work with them, really closely over the years. And if we go to the next slide, you can take a look at the continuum. This is our counseling model, okay? And so as you can see, every year we have a different focus with our students, but the focus is always going to be around those 3 main items: academics, college and career, and social emotional. And so the setup is a little different each year. If you were able to come last year via Zoom, you knew that there was the individual counseling appointment for 9th graders. We're shifting into a little different appointment setup this year with sophomores. And we are going to front load you all with the information that we are going to ideally be talking with your students about, but in a little bit more detail, so that you have this information prior to us meeting with them in the spring. And then, of course, we meet again with them in their junior year and finish out senior year. Okay, so just a timeline of things that we would recommend students be focusing on in their sophomore year, kind of broken out by month or times of the year. So, we're really encouraging the use of Naviance. That's a really important college and career planning tool. Mr. Ann will talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. So updating the resume on Naviance, for example, progressing towards completing requirements. And we're going to talk about that in detail as well. So not only the Los Altos High School graduation requirements, but also the UC CSU A through G requirements. And we're going to encourage students to continue developing extracurricular interests. It's not too late to join a club on campus. It's not too late to get involved. And we're really going to, encourage that piece. Continuing to investigate leadership opportunities. Later on in the year, around this time, we're going to be looking over first semester grades and also making course selections for 11th grade. And that's actually coming up in the next few weeks. And later on in the year, focusing on potential summer opportunities. And then at the end of the academic year is when we have our counseling workshop with 10th graders. Okay, and there's also college fairs and other opportunities related to summer options. So in our workshops, our small group workshops, and we're going to meet with a group of about 10 students at a time. And really the idea around this model for this 10th grade workshop is that it's a more collaborative environment for them to be in, for us also to be able to see them interacting with their peers, for us to be able to get to know them a little bit better in that setting versus just the one-on-one. It allows us to have a different insight that we might not otherwise have. And so some of the things that we are going to be touching on in that appointment, or that workshop, I should say, is the reviewing the academic progress and doing some forward planning, looking at skill building for success in high school and beyond. We'll be having some community activity and also have some SEL, social emotional learning, built in as well. One of the things that is very important for students and families to understand is where their student is at progress-wise with their academics. And so we're going to go into a bit of detail on how you can access this information and how to read and understand the documents. And so two of the big items that we always want to make sure students and families understand is the transcript and the grad status report. We will have third quarter grades by the time we have the workshop, so that's something that we can discuss. Just to note here about academic progress of a student, it does earn a lower grade or is trending in that direction, then we will have that conversation about summer school, and it's linked there if you'd like to see that at a later time. Working with teachers, figuring out how to problem solve, how to utilize that ACT time. We have that on 2 days of the week now. So really understanding, how do you self-advocate? How do you get help from your teachers when you need it? Or how do you access other resources on campus? We have a great tutorial center. It's robust. It's ready for students to be there. We have so many tutors, peer tutors. And so, those are the types of things that we want to make sure that your students are really understanding. And in order to access the SIS, the transcript and the grad status report, you just need to know that it's available to you as a parent and as your students, of course, in their accounts. So you would sign in as you normally would in order to view those two documents, and then you would navigate to grades and then transcript or grad status report. And so we're going to look at those in a little bit more detail in the next couple of slides. Okay, so everyone at this point, your sophomores are 3 semesters in. They're starting to get quite a bit on their transcript now. And sometimes, students come in and they really don't understand how to read the transcript. So the purpose of this is really to kind of break down how to understand and read the transcript. The items that are circled here, the P, that's designating a college prep class. So that is going to be counting into the academic GPA we'll look at in a minute. If the course has a plus next to it, that means that it's a weighted course in the GPA, an AP or an honors course. And the asterisk is a non-academic course such as PE or sports. Okay, so that just kind of explains a little bit about how what those symbols mean. Just so you know that there's quite a few different GPAs on the transcript, and they are going to be continuing to evolve. The academic GPA, like I said, is made up of all the college prep academic courses. The total GPA will include every single course taken. A weighted course will include that extra point for any honors or AP courses, and non-weighted is self-explanatory. So just a note that the first GPA, that 9 through 12, is the one that private colleges or public out-of-states may be more interested in, versus the UCCSU, which is they are looking closely at the 10th and 11th grade GPA. Okay, so the grad status report, and this is really important in understanding, of course, where your students at with meeting all the graduation requirements. We make sure that we track this very closely. And so there's a lot of information on here. So this is just a breakdown for you to be able to better understand it. So the first column, A, is the items that need to be completed, the 220 credits broken out into each subject area. Those are the requirements for all of our students. The second column, B, indicates the credits that have already been completed, right? So your students have already completed a year and a half, so they will have some items here. They still have a ways to go. So column C is going to show them what they're currently enrolled in and what's left to complete. And then column D is a breakdown of the actual credits, right? So if it's an English requirement, it's a 4-year requirement, that's going to be 4 credits. So a year-long class is 10 credits. Okay. And again, this is a breakdown of the graduation requirements. We will talk with your students and make sure that they're on track and making good progress on all of these items throughout their high school career. And the 4-year plan. So the 4-year plan is a document that we create with our 9th grade students. So this is an ever-evolving document. It was shared with your student in Google Drive last year. And so it's something that we do an annual review on and make sure that it's up to date and current for students as they're making course selection choices. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Therese Parker. Thank you.
Thank you. So next week is the beginning of our course selection window, January 24th, and it runs all the way until February 18th. This is the time when students have the opportunity to put the courses that they would like to take for next year into Aries. And there will be lots of opportunity for students to learn more about their options. So starting on the Monday, students will receive a copy of the course selection sheet as well as a time management worksheet. The first week of course selection, students are going to have individual conversations with their teachers so that they have their recommendations on the courses that they could and should take for next year. And there will be videos shown throughout class time to provide more information about what options they have. Counselors are going to be available throughout this entire window on a drop-in basis, so they can come and see us throughout this entire time. We have designated drop-in periods during lunch as well as during ACT, and whether or not they'll find us in the quad or in our offices, there will be announcements made on the mornings of the course selection window days. So when it comes to course selection, there are a few different things that we encourage students to be mindful of. The first is balance. We can't emphasize it enough. Students should be creating a schedule that's well balanced so that they have enough time to participate in all of the things that they enjoy. We want them to lean more into the challenging side of a schedule versus an overwhelming schedule. In addition to that, interest. So a lot of students are interested in taking those challenging AP and honors classes, and they might have some difficulty deciding which ones to take. And we encourage them to think about the ones that align most closely with their interests and perhaps their strengths as well. And lastly, teacher input, I mentioned that they'll have the opportunity to speak with their teachers individually in class. And they can also speak to teachers of the potential courses that they're thinking about. This is a really great advantage for them to learn more about the course content, have an idea of how much time and work will go into the classes that they're considering. So as rising juniors, your students have a few additional alternative programs as options. The first one you'll see here is Freestyle Academy. So if you have a very creative student, this might be something that they're interested in. So it's an integrated coursework program. So they have 3 different classes that they'll be taking. English is one of them, and then they have 2 design-focused courses. They have 3 different options of tracks, so animation or design or film production. They choose one, and they would be taking these classes for their junior and senior years. They'd be taking those 3 classes at the Freestyle campus, which is located near at Mountain View High School's campus. And the core academics, the rest of their schedule would be at Los Altos High School. So math, science, for example. The second option is Foothill Middle College. So a student who might want a more non-traditional high school setting, so a smaller cohort of students at Foothill College's campus, they'd be taking a few courses at the high school level, and the remainder would all be at the collegiate level. So that would be one option that's at Foothill's campus. The next is College Now, and that is where every single course that they're taking is at the college level. They're there in college classes with college students. And if you have any more interest in that program, you can see the contact information for Gary McHenry there. And again, these slides will be available on the website after our presentation. And for all 3, there is an application that's required. The Freestyle application is up now, and there will be announcements made pretty soon for Foothill and College Now. So Ms. Mistel Ali made mention to the UC requirements earlier. This is what they look like. These are the college entrance requirements for the UC and CSU systems. Those are California public universities. So a total of 15 A to G courses at least that students will take throughout their 4 years in order to be eligible to apply to these universities. So if they take the history requirements that we have for graduation, they'll be totally set for the UC CSU entrance requirements. It's just 2 years. They need 4 years of English, 3 years minimum of math, which is an additional year beyond our grad requirement, but 4 is highly recommended. 2 years of science, 3 recommended, 2 years of a language other than English, but 3 is recommended, 1 year of a visual or performing art, and 1 year of a college preparatory elective. And in order for students to ensure that they're on track to complete those A to G requirements, we do have this worksheet available on our website that we also review with students during the workshops. So the students counselor will create this, get it started for them, and share it with them in Google Drive or email it to them so that students can check off as they complete these semester requirements of these course subject areas. And now Ms. Duran, our College and Career Center coordinator, is going to take it up from here.
Great, thank you. All right, so it is my pleasure to speak for the College and Career Center. We work closely with the school counseling team all 4 years for all students. Miss Price, who's the college advisor, she starts working closely with students spring of their 11th grade, and she'll start having one-to-one appointments with every interested junior. But before your student gets to spring of junior year, we definitely want them to come into the College and Career Center. We are open before school, during brunch, lunch, during ACT time, after school for drop-in. And we also have various college rep visits, which I'll talk more about, but just want to really emphasize that your 10th graders encouraged to stop by the College and Career Center before 11th grade. So we hope to see them soon. So what are some of the things that happen in the College and Career Center? Well, it's in the title. For college, we have college rep visits. Those mostly happen in the spring, but there are definitely some college fairs happening, in the fall, but there are definitely college fairs happening this spring, mostly virtual. We have workshops during the tutorial time twice a week during ACT on Wednesdays and Fridays, and students can sign up in advance for that. We also send out a weekly email to students with upcoming events, opportunities in the community, job opportunities, We have a YouTube channel where we recorded a lot of content last year during the asynchronous learning. So that content is available for students and parents to reference. And then we also have a Facebook and an Instagram account, which we're trying to use as alternative ways to get important information out to the community. As far as career, we do ask students to use Naviance, and I'm here to help them use that tool and see what potential there is there, and then sort of make sense of the results that they get. We also are working on building out our community partnerships for internships and other experiential learning opportunities. And in addition, looking for summer programs, helping students think through how they might want to spend their summer, what's available out there, and guiding them through that process. And then really hoping students take advantage of things like informational interviews. We have an extensive list of questions that they might ask somebody who's in a career that they're interested in, or even a family or a friend of the family who they could practice that on before they ask somebody sort of outside their immediate network. And then extracurricular activities, that's been mentioned already tonight, but we really want your student to explore, do some self-reflection, think about experiences. And so the LHS clubs are very robust. There's quite a bit of volunteering opportunities, both virtual and in person, activities that they might start on their own or that they do within the home. Even if it's not formal, we want students to recognize that what they're spending their time counts as an activity. And then documenting that in a resume. And there's a resume feature in Naviance that allows school counselors, and then eventually down the line, maybe teachers who might be writing letters of recommendation to see that resume. So it really benefits the student to start documenting those activities as they go along versus waiting until they need it for an application or a job or something else, just kind of keeping up with that. And then really emphasizing to students identifying the why behind the what. So why do they play that sport? Why have they joined that club? Why did they pursue that summer program? Not just what the program was. And we've talked about Naviance quite a bit. Every parent guardian has their own account, and I'd be happy to set you up with that. If you send me an email, I can make sure you have an access code. And your students have single sign-on, so they don't need to remember their username or password. They can access that. And on the College and Career Center website, we have a page dedicated to Naviance with some images that they can use to follow how to access the tool. And in Naviance, there's a self-discovery section where they can take different personality tests or career explorer inventories, and those are listed here. And then eventually they can also start using the tool for researching different colleges. And there's a pretty cool filter where they can say, large, medium, small, in an urban, suburban, rural campus in specific states or with a specific major. So 10th grade's pretty neat because they can explore without a ton of pressure. And so we do encourage you to start having those conversations with your student in a very calm, sort of just exploratory manner. And we also, let's see here. I think I covered most of these points here. One thing is that there are a lot of physical resources in the College and Career Center. So we have college books where students can look at what might be interesting to them. We have AP prep books. We have other college admission testing prep books, and we can also have those conversations with students if they come to the College and Career Center. And so lastly, we know it's January, you just came off of winter break, but it is a good time to start thinking about your summer. So it is important to take time and relax and to recharge before another academic school year. And it can be a great time to get some of that hands-on experiential learning, either through a part-time job, through volunteering, an internship, a summer program or a camp, or maybe taking a class at the community college. So we want to just encourage you to talk to your student about what this summer might look like, and then come to P15. The College and Career Center is located close to Almond Avenue by the student and the staff parking lot. So we hope to see your students in there very, very soon. And with that, I will pass it back to Ms. Parker. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're back to balance. I mentioned before, we are very big proponents for balance when it comes to your students and their schedules and their lives. So we encourage students to really think about all of the different things that they are committed to in addition to academics, so extracurricular activities. They've got their personal and mental health to think about. They have family and friends and other things that they might have going on. So when it comes to their scheduling, they should keep the big picture in mind. Go after their passions, the things that they're interested in, the areas of strength, as I mentioned before, and thinking about how much time it's really going to take for them to commit to the courses that they have in mind, and making sure that as they're scheduling in downtime. So sleep is very important for teenagers, so that the schedule should allow for that, and to really utilize the time management worksheet that they'll be provided during their first period class. Next slide. Okay, so school-based mental health services, we have several different services for students to take advantage of. We do have the opportunity for students to request 6 to 12 weeks of one-on-one telehealth therapeutic support through CHAC. That is something that they would have to be referred to, and it's something that I'll go over in more depth in a next slide. So this is the referral process for CHAC. So first, someone would refer, whether it be parent, student, or a community member. There's a student support referral form that's available on the Los Altos High School website. It's linked here. You can access these slides later. The referral then goes to our intake coordinator, and they will check in with the student in person and decide whether or not school-based therapy is appropriate for them. And if it is, then they'll be paired with a CHAC intern counselor. And if not, then resources will be shared with the student and their family. Additional campus support resources. You have your students counselor. So there are 7 of us, and we meet with their students throughout their 4 years. We're not just here to be the people who help them choose their schedules. We're definitely here for that. But as things arise, they're welcome to speak with their counselors. We have academic support in the form of the tutorial center and writing center. Students are able to go there during ACT or during an open period. It's also open before and after school. And we have mostly peer tutors, but we do on occasion have adult tutors available to help with pretty much all the subject areas that we offer on campus. Mr. Rand mentioned she gave a very in-depth explanation about the College and Career Center and all of the supports that it offers. And we encourage students to get used to coming to see it, especially in 10th grade. It's an awesome year to come. No pressure. I mentioned CHAC. We do have therapists who are able to help students with their social and emotional needs. And we have Jose Salazar, who's our bilingual community liaison, and who offers Spanish translation and support for English language learners. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. And so we're able to answer some questions. But while we're sorting through those questions, if you can all do us just the kindest favor and complete the survey that's shown here. If you can go ahead and type that link into your browser and go ahead and complete that once you get a chance tonight. This will help us to fine-tune our presentations in the future and make sure that we've answered all the burning questions that you have. Thank you so much. And so I do see that there are raised hands, but if you would go ahead and type your question into the Q&A, we'd be happy to answer the questions that you have. And if you feel more comfortable making those private questions, you can do that as well. Okay. So we have one question about Naviance. Mr. Rand, if you could answer this one. Does the parent log on to Naviance connect to the student's log on, such as being able to see their goals and whatnot?
Yeah, the parent view, there are some limited, they don't have all of the same access that a student does, but you can still see the various features. So please email me and I can get you set up, and then we can get you going on there and you can take a look around. And if you have older students, we can tie your new student or your younger student to the account that you previously had. So just give me an email.
Thank you. And we have a question about the length of our workshops for sophomores, and is it just one session? So yes, it is one session that students will be meeting in the small group workshop, and those are 45 minutes long. So there is a question about, or more like a comment about the referral process. So I agree that the screen, what was shown on the screen might make it seem more complicated than it is. It's actually just one form. It's available electronically. And so if you have any trouble finding the referral form, you can always reach out to your school counselor, your student school counselor, and they can help you by completing that referral for you on your behalf. So we're here to make things as easy as possible. We want to make sure that our students get the support that they need. And there's so many people on campus willing and ready and able to help your students. So where can we find these slides? On our counseling website. Ms. Mistel, if you could help me out by linking that in the Q&A. We have a really great website, so does the College and Career Center. You can find a link to our slides and previous presentations, both of our YouTube channels, just a wealth of resources on the websites. And yes, so we're still recording, so this Q&A portion will be available on the recording.
And I'm going to put the link to the survey in the Q&A as well.
Oh, it looks like they are able to see the chat. So if anyone would do me the favor of putting, oh, you've already got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a question about scattergrams, Ms. Duran. If I look in Navient scattergrams, acceptance to top universities seems to require a weighted GPA of greater than 4.4. How do you reconcile this with the advice to only sign up for honors and AP classes if they match your area of interest? So I think we might want to work out. So required, those are just averages, and yeah, so Mr. Ryan can take it from there.
Yeah, I think, the scattergram data is not complete data because it doesn't follow the same process as the admissions offices would, which is a holistic review of the student. And so it's a sort of useful tool to get a sense of what kind of range you might be in compared to some other students at your high school. But it's a much more nuanced conversation because a student can have the highest GPA possible, and it doesn't guarantee admission to any specific school. And yet we have students without the highest possible GPA who are landing at highly selective institutions globally. So that really does support our assertion that extracurriculars, finding fit, having your student really know what they are passionate about, and then I go up as far as to say articulate that is a really important component. And so the more exploration and discovery and sense of self that you can help your student lean into, if they can then communicate that in their college applications, we see that students do really, really well when they're able to do that. So, and really well in life, not just on a scattergram. So I'll just leave that one.
Thank you. So we have some questions about the workshops and versus one-to-one meetings. So as a reminder, this is for the 10th grade level. Students will be meeting in a group setting with their counselor once. We still have those one-to-one meetings in the other grade levels. So as freshmen, we'll also be meeting with them one-on-one in junior year. And then we meet with them again senior year, and parents are invited to attend that one. So the unique thing about the sophomore workshop is it gives us the opportunity to see them in a group setting with their peers, something that we can keep in mind when it comes to writing their letters of recommendation if they're applying to a college that requires that in senior year. And also just the amount of information that we're going to be giving to students is pretty much a general overview of the things that we would have been if it had been a one-on-one appointment. So understanding the transcript, the graduation requirements and graduation status and so on. So hopefully that helps to clarify the workshops and the purpose behind them. And group work is something that is highly recommended for our professions as school counselors. So also an opportunity for us to work on the social emotional learning with your students.
Ms. Parker, could I have just one thing?
Yes.
Thanks so much for that. I also wanted to mention, for those of you wondering about ways for your 10th graders to connect with us individually, as mentioned earlier, we have drop-in office hour times every day during lunch, every day during brunch, and also twice a week during that academic collaboration time, where students can drop in and see us from whichever classroom they're in or just outside of it, as well as a variety of workshops that not only school counselors host throughout the year on specific topics, but also if you were to look at the College and Career Center's calendar, you would see a whole host of additional topics. So I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that that 45-minute session is not your students' only opportunity to drop in with us and see us and connect with us. We spend a lot of time with students. I have 10th graders who I see 30 minutes every week. So it's just a different format for this one piece of our model.
Thank you. We have a question about meeting with teachers. So just something to be aware of: on the main website, you can request parent-teacher conferences. So if you go to lhs.mbla.net, I believe it's under, if anyone has it in front of them, can help me out. You can find a link to fill out a form to request one with one of your child's teachers. All right, so.
Parker, do you mind if I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
So good evening again. My name is Javier Morales. This year I have the great pleasure and the great honor to work with this amazing counseling team. Just to give you a little bit of background of who I am, previous to being an assistant principal, I was able to work at a middle college, College of San Mateo, Skyline College, and also served for a number of years as a department chair for San Mateo High School, and did some consulting work with the County Office of Education. And I just have to say that this team is one of the best teams that I've had an opportunity to work with. They are very student-centered and immediately respond to the needs of each of our students, whether it's a question about college, university, or a social emotional need. So your students are in great hands, and I'm oftentimes having to remind the counselors that it's time to go home, because if they could, they would spend numerous hours here working with your students, and they're fully engaged. The other thing I would say is, one of the things that I want to just quickly mention is, when it comes to course selection and the progression of students, and as it relates to college and admissions, I mean, we do understand that, we live in a very competitive area, and oftentimes, things are said in the community that are in conflict with something that we're recommending, and we understand that, and we're fully aware of it. But the team here does spend a lot of time working with admissions counselors. We have the wonderful, great work that Ms. Duran is doing, and Ms. Price, and we're seeking their guidance, and they're in constant communication with folks. And the one thing that we keep getting feedback on is that colleges are looking for a narrative, a story, as to why a student is pursuing a particular area. So whether that be a STEM or music, they want to see a demonstrated growth and challenge in certain classes. They're no longer interested in seeing students just kind of checking off boxes. What we find ourselves seeing is that when senior year comes around and students are talking about their personal statements, which is really the thing that's going to really take them as a more qualified applicant, is that they're unable to express why they took all these challenging courses. And that's a little bit of a red flag for universities, in that they know that everyone needs a challenge, but if they're unable to express why they're doing it, it just kind of perpetuates this myth of pursuing something that may or may not be there. So we really want to disrupt that and really have the students be able to tell their story as to why they're dedicated. And we know that everyone has a little bit of a different story. We have students who will take 4 years of music, and they're talking about how they participated in marching band and how they did the Festival of Lights, and they're really be able to speak to that passion without having to just say, well, I took all these APs and I'm not sure why, but I did. So again, that's the narrative that we're telling. We're having to work with our students. And again, each year, our counselors are working really, really, really hard in getting to know our students and being able to craft that message. And the more that they come and see Ms. Duran and Ms. Price and the College and Career Center, the better that we're going to be able to assist our students. So there's a very dedicated personal approach and touch that we do with our counseling department, and something that we really cherish. So it's something that we want to do, and again, disrupt in the race of just kind of taking boxes and saying, this is what I've done, without really being able to express that. So just wanted to add that, and just give kudos to the team. If there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And just the last thing I will say is, this year we're trying a different approach when it comes to our course selection process. So next week, it's going to be a week of activities for our students. For Monday, we'll have an opportunity to hear about the various electives that are available. And then every day during the lunchtime period, students will be able to check in with the counselors, but they'll also be able to check in with the various electives and get more detailed information about what that means. And again, have those conversations with our teachers, so that if they're trying to decide between AP Bio, AP Chem, and AP Psychology, students will have an opportunity to have those discussions. So more to come on that. And again, we're here to support you. And if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to meet and discuss this a little bit further. Thank you, Ms. Parker.
Thank you. So we have several questions that are still in, and I'll try our best to get to as many of them as we can for the remainder of our time that we've got. So let's see. This is an interesting question. Is there any sort of program, some sort of way where sophomores and juniors can learn more about the experiences of applying to colleges from current seniors before they depart campus? In the past, we've held something, and we continue to hold something called, my gosh, our college night that's hosted between Mountain View and Los Altos High School, and we usually have a panel of seniors. And I always encourage students to attend that, because it's a great way to hear from them what their experience has been, things that they wish they'd known. So I think that would be the closest thing aligned with that question. Countdown to college. Yeah, so sorry, it's the evening and I'm got my evening brain. So Countdown to College. Mr. Duran, do you want to add any additional information or plugs about that program?
Yes, please save the date, March 29th. We will be hosting the Countdown for College event. We're working on finalizing our guest presenters, but we're hoping that it will be a informative, broad welcome to thinking about, post-secondary planning and traditional paths, some alternative paths like taking a gap year, where we have somebody already lined up to come talk about that, and maybe some other training programs. So we're going to try to make it so that people can join live for the sessions that they're interested in, but also watch recordings for the sessions that they're unable to attend. So we'll be promoting that more, but March 29th, save the date, from 6 to 8 p.m. Thanks.
Thank you. Question about Foothills Middle College and the timeline. So I'll take my best guess at what is meant by the timeline. So there are two different times that students can apply for. There's the AM and there's PM. So students who are athletes or have other sorts of after school commitments are encouraged to apply for AM. That means that they're taking periods 2, 3, and 4 at Freestyles campus. And PM is the second half of the day. So periods 5, 6, and 7. So those are the timelines. It's a 2-year program, so students apply now in their sophomore year to attend in junior and senior year. Students can apply in junior year for their senior year, but they get the most out of the program if they apply as a sophomore going to their junior year. I also see some questions about ACT and SAT. I can say that the typical timeframe that's encouraged is spring semester of junior year if students are taking that test. I know that there's some things that are still up in the air. Mr. Ann, if you have anything to add, sophomore appropriate for SAT and ACT, feel free.
Yeah, so even before the pandemic sort of turned all of college admissions testing upside down, and most of the time students were taking the SAT or the ACT in the spring of 11th grade. That was sort of the most common time. So even now, with huge institutions walking away from standardized testing, for your 10th grader in 2019, it would have still been spring of 11th grade. So the PSAT that your student might have taken this past October gave some interesting insight to where your student's at. But we really want to emphasize the best way to prepare for any standardized test is the coursework that they're taking now. So by focusing on the classes that they're in, doing their best to develop their skills, that is, test prep. And we're closely monitoring the college admissions requirements and communicating those as soon as we hear them out with families. I dropped something in the Q&A, but I can do again. It's called fairtest.org, and this nonprofit is just tracking which schools have test free or test optional policies. And so that might be worth taking a look at. But last June was the last time the SAT offered subject tests. So those have been canceled. SAT also stopped the offering the essay component. So even the College Board is sort of having its own reckoning with what they're offering for students. So to be continued. But I think your student will have lots of great options, even if they decide that they don't want to take a standardized test, because lots of schools are saying that they're continuing this even for the next few years. So for including the 10th graders of doing a test free admissions policy.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, the PowerPoint slides will be available on the counseling website. So that's where you'll be able to find them. So let's see, maybe just a couple of more questions. So there is something about letters of recommendation. So just as a reminder, we have lots of guidance from the past few years, or the total of 4 years that we've been working with your students. There is also a process that they'll go through in order to make sure that we're able to write a very comprehensive letter of recommendation for them as they go off to college. And that's something that they'll be given more details about in their senior year. But right now the focus will be on students developing their interests, learning more about their passions, and continuing to learn to be great students. All right. Any additional questions that the team would like to respond to that you might see?
I saw one that just said, for students that maybe missed first semester virtual learning, how are they getting caught up on some of that information? And there is a pamphlet that your 9th grader will be getting from the school counselor. And in there is a bunch of information, your 10th grader can see that information posted on the College and Career Center website. So if they didn't get that paper copy, then we have that virtually available. And then there's also the virtual college admission counseling handbook, which has a timeline in the back. So there are a lot of helpful resources on the College and Career Center website. So I encourage you to take a look. And then if you see something missing, please email me. I'd love to update information that would be helpful to students and families. And we really would love your student to come into the College and Career Center, because then we can have one-to-one conversations with them and fill in any gaps and hopefully get them excited to do more experiential activities. And then we can make some recommendations based on what they're interested in.
Thank you. And I believe you mentioned this earlier, Laura, about like what, aside from test scores, our college is focusing on. So many colleges have already had a holistic view to admission. So extracurricular activities, involvement outside of the classroom, as mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're seeing a lot of what is the student choosing? How are they choosing to spend their time? And then is their perspective larger than sort of themselves in a lot of cases? So is it in whatever way makes sense, like giving back to a family member who might need something, and how are they doing that? Or a community being local community within their neighbors, or maybe it's at school, or maybe it's something, you know, a group of students from other high schools in the area, and so on. And so it really does tie back to the narrative, because sort of scattered activities can be really useful for a student to discover if they like something or they don't like something. But then again, really being able to say, hey, I joined this club and I thought it was going to be a certain way, but what I really discovered is I'm not interested in that at all. So then I tried this other thing. And so if they can articulate that, it's amazing for their own development, but also kind of shows that they were willing to try something, and also willing to reflect on that activity to say, is this what I'm interested in or not, and why? And can I move on to something else if it's not working out for me? So I think 10th grade is really, sincerely, such a great year. And so I hope that you have this conversation with your student. You know, what have you tried recently? Did you like it or not? Why? And we have a template like that too, that we kind of guide students to do that reflection on various activities as part of building a resume. And so if you want, you can send them our way and we can ask those same questions and then try to hear maybe a direction, and then encourage them to try something or connect them with an opportunity to just build on that. So it's a very exciting time for us to work with your student, and we really hope that we have the opportunity. But it also, to the other point, so reading their emails that they're getting every week, and then following up on some of the available options. So you can encourage them to do that. It's also posted on the College and Career Center website, so you can see what they're getting weekly, and maybe bring that up. Hey, what about this? This looks like something you might be interested in. Did you see that? Or it could be having your student show you Naviance. So you can play the, tech naive. Hey, can you show me how the single sign-on works and like what you're doing in there? So I think there's, sort of casual ways that you can start having this conversation and encouraging your student to come get more information. And also our social media account, we're just trying to plant little seeds at timely points for students to think about. And we ask you to follow as well.
Thank you. Another question about freestyle. So for a student who's interested in the program, even though their career interests don't really align with what freestyle offers, is it still a good idea to apply, or better to focus on classes more aligned with career interests? I say if your student is interested, go for it. And students who are in freestyle and graduate from freestyle may or may not end up applying to a major that is aligned with, what freestyle offers. I think freestyle is a really unique opportunity for our students. And if it's something that they want to pursue, they can go for it. They're learning all kinds of wonderful things and using programs that professionals would be using. So I say it doesn't hurt to apply. And if they have more questions, freestyle is totally open to answering the questions they may have. So I say go for it.
And all they have to have is interest. I just want to add that too. They don't have to be skilled graphic artists or anything like that. They don't need to be film producers already. That's the whole point, is to give them information about it and to get them exposed to it and to give them really unique skill set, as Ms. Parker just mentioned. And they might not think that that's their career pathway, but I've had quite a few students go through that program who really get super excited once they're there, and then they end up pursuing something in that direction later on. So I like your advice, Ms. Parker.
Thank you. And then there's just one last question I think we might have time for. This is about some of those courses that have an AP or honors class as a prerequisite that are not considered honors or AP level. So specifically AIDEN and the capstone courses, and some concern about whether or not universities will discount them as non-honors classes. So I welcome additional answers, but I think the first thing that comes to mind is by the time students are taking these courses, they've got a variety of courses they've already completed. And so it's important for students to really take what they're interested and passionate about, and not as much concern about so yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So if we go with interest, if your student is interested in AIDEN or completing the capstone project, to go for it. The courses that lead up to that pathway will demonstrate the rigor that, you know, courses like colleges like to see.
And again, it's one of those things, sorry to jump in again, but it's one of those things that in this district, we're just so fortunate to have these opportunities for kids to get in and to get experience, and to really, one thing I hear from colleges a lot is they really love students who are academically driven, but they also really love kids who, this is their words, have gotten their hands dirty in an area where they're really getting that experience to go along with it. And so that's what those courses provide. And that's a huge part of the benefit to them.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
That was exactly what I was going to say, Mr. Carter. And that's going to be part of their narrative, because by the time they finish that AIDEN class, they will have produced something, and they're going to be speaking passionately about that something. So that's where that give and take will be. So that's a great opportunity for them.
And it looks like we have a few more freestyle questions, so I'm going to link directly to the freestyle website so you can
Thank you.
see the application and the information about entrance and things like that.
Thank you, Ms. Mistel.
The course selection section of the LHS counseling website also has links to Freestyle, Foothill, Middle College, as well as College Now. So if you're interested in linking to those, that's a quick way to get there.
Thanks so much. Well, we appreciate you all taking your evening to join us for this sophomore parent webinar. We hope that you have a great, safe rest of your evening. You know that we are here to help your students, encourage them to come and drop by during, you know, those drop-in periods. And we look forward to working with them during the 10th grade workshop. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.